What absolute reflex defence from their goalkeeper. Unbelievable. Gaby Garton saves the blushes.
So I guess my road to Australia was a bit different. I'd been playing in Argentina for about 7 years and was kind of ready for a change. It definitely helped having played the Four Nations tournament here in 2019. We got to see Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne, and I got to play in Melbourne against the Matildas, which was a really awesome experience. I just remember also facing Lisa Devana, who would later eventually be my teammate, but you know, she's well known around the world, and facing players like that in a stadium like Amy Park, I fell in love with Melbourne. It was like the city that I really liked. Yeah, so I grew up in Florida. I was born in Minnesota, but grew up in Florida. Neither of my parents were really into sport. They just kind of, I was always out and about playing with my guy friends mostly, and I remember watching the '99 Women's World Cup and seeing the US win, and at that point that was kind of when I decided football was what I wanted to do. After graduating from university in the US, I went to Rice University, graduated with a degree in Hispanic Studies. I moved to Argentina in 2013, so my mom's from there. And when I went, I sort of saw a reality that was very different from what I experienced as a female football player in the US. Like, my experience was the exception. Most girls around the world don't have the opportunity to play the sport that they want to play. And so I sort of was trying to see a way, how can I sort of think about these questions in a different way, or think about why this occurs. And through some mutual friends, they encouraged me to start a graduate degree in sociology. So I'm actually currently doing my PhD in sociology, and my thesis is around women's football in Argentina. It was also while I was at Rice University that I was able to have my first contact with the Argentine national team and saw that glimmer of possibility of international football. And I don't know if my mom was so keen on having me go back from where she'd come from. I always had this sort of curiosity or draw to see what it would be like to live where my mom grew up and be able to spend more time with my family there. So when the possibility came to go play, I jumped on it and was at River Plate for 3 years, and then I was at Guayurquiza, which is a smaller club, but in the women's game they've done quite well in the first division. It's one of the few clubs that kind of has given their team, their women's side, a lot more support than perhaps the other teams in the first division, historically anyway. Yeah, having the opportunity to go and to train with the national team, and then having the coach say that they were actually keen on having me be part of it. It was cool because I got to be part of the preseason that they had before the 2011 Pan American Games. I think the best part of moving to Argentina was that I was able to not change things by myself, but come alongside and be a part of a generation that has risen up and has started to fight for better conditions, for more recognition, to fight against this sort of stigma that the girls who play have to necessarily be manly, or that playing somehow affects the way that you can be a woman. There's been a huge change in what I first saw in moving to Argentina to the last few years, where the players have really started to find a voice and unite and realize that, you know, there is a better possibility. They don't have to settle for what they've always experienced. I think the US and the Matildas are probably the golden standard, but you know, as long as they keep pushing, the teams who are underneath will continue to as well. The grand final concept's a bit new to me. In the Australian context, I feel like the hype is more around the grand final, but I think it's really amazing that only 2 teams get to the final, and being able to be a part of that is exciting for sure. I think our situation at Victory was interesting because we do have all the international spots taken up, but we're mostly internationals who are already in Australia. So it was kind of a cool opportunity with the fact that perhaps because they weren't able to bring in internationals from overseas, this opportunity opened up for some of us that might not have been taken into consideration. It's an interesting mix of internationals because we have a couple Kiwis, we have a couple Americans, and then there's me who's American Argentine. So I feel like we've been able to gel pretty well, but I think it's also great to see young Australians getting the chance to come into the league and to own it, really, because I think also in the past maybe they've not had the opportunities as well. So it's good to see a side like Sydney really take a gamble on the youth and give them the chance to show what they can do. In our squad we have the likes of Paulie and Mindy Barbieri and some others, Kyra Cooney-Cross. Like, we've got some great young and up-and-coming Aussie players, so it's great to see them as well coming through and really growing. You can tell, like, from the first game until now what they've been able to achieve and continue to do. I'm not taking this lightly. It's a big opportunity, and it probably will be one of the most special games I'll have in my career. So I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm excited. I think if we are able to bring our game and do our best, it should be a really great showing and hopefully a great spectacle as well for everyone who's going to be watching. With Sydney, it'll be interesting. That result on Wednesday might have even fired us up a bit more for the game that we had against Brisbane on Sunday. So we don't want to feel that again, so let's really go for it. And I think that showed on the weekend, so hopefully we can bring that same fire and do the job on Sunday. Even since I got to Melbourne, they're like, oh no, Sydney sucks, Sydney's terrible. Like, why would you want to go to Sydney? Like, Melbourne's the best, Melbourne's the best. So I think I've sort of bought into that. But yeah, I think it would be massive to be able to beat Sydney in Sydney. It'd be awesome. It would have been great against any team, but it's sort of like that Sydney-Melbourne bit makes it that much more special.